how it all goes from here. Um, so I just, I do ask for some support, in the courtroom, because this honestly is a big breakthrough, not only for me, but for everybody, for all law enforcement agencies who were involved. And um it's also a breakthrough for families, in hopes that, and I really hope that, this gives them some hope too, and connects connects and brings everybody together as far as communication. Breaking down those barriers is what I hope Zach's case, I hope his case brought all of that to light. As far as, resources, I know where my resources are, and I thank you all for that. Um, so at this time, I honestly don't know what else to ask for besides prayer, and just, continue sharing and supporting not only Zach's, things, but family members as well. And, I truly am grateful from the bottom of my heart, to have you all as support, and, just listening to me and other families, um, and
Fully
helping
appreciate you,
to,
Veggie. Mm-hmm.
yeah, helping to make these changes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was prepared and ready, but it just, it feels like I lost Zach all over again. And prayers is what I'm just really asking for right now. And I just thank you all again.
Well, yeah, Hashada, we're here for you. In addition, to like the request for financial resources, know that we do have partners in our network that the advocates can refer, to some counseling and guiding for the family. Understanding that this is bringing back all of that immediate pain. So wanted to make sure that we just echo those resources, because when you're in um, when you're in helping and being an advocate yourself, um, you may know what's available, but sometimes you just need that warm hand to help you. So appreciate that you have advocates, and um, we have the resources to help support. And what I did want to move forward with, and in my understanding that Elliot Neal was,
Thank
go ahead. Okay, that Elliot Neal with the U.S. Attorney's Office was a big part of the collaboration and review. So we were able to get that information. So Malcolm, I'm not going to ask about specifics of the case, but could you let us know in terms of communication to help with our tribal community response plan? In with working with the U.S. Attorney's Office, in particular to some of these cases, do you think there's been an increase in communication, or is there still a need for the AUSA attorneys to keep criminal investigators updated on these investigations? And I don't need anything about a specific case. I'm just purely talking about communication and collaboration.
As far as I know, the United States Attorney is willing to work with the victim advocates and disseminating that information. I don't know what really specifically you're asking. Um, as far as that is concerned, I mean, if there's something that maybe I'm missing something somewhere, that maybe I can carry that message to them and to help, to coordinate and facilitate the information that needs to get to where it needs to go between the resources that we're sharing.
Okay, appreciate it. So, what I could do is, are you familiar with Vanjie Randall's son's case?
I'm sorry, I don't recall it.
Okay,
Many
so
of them.
what we'll do, I know you have a huge caseload, and that's why I wanted to make sure that there's some communication from the U.S. Attorney's Office to Navajo criminal investigators, as you may have been the primary investigator that, Navajo Nation there should be a mechanism where we're communicating with our federal partners on these cases. So, so we could work, and that's really why we need this tribal community response plan uh, to be legislated. And we could work in terms of with the Office of the Prosecutor on what that communication looks like uh, with our federal partners. And I know that Elliot Neal has been very busy, especially with all of the federal shutdown. Uh, but what I'll do on my end is, because I'm concerned in terms of that communication and collaboration, that's important for Navajo law enforcement to know the status of all of these cases, whether or not they're going to stay in Navajo Nation jurisdiction, or they're going to move forward with a federal prosecution. And that's really one of the core issues, is some of the communication between law enforcement and I don't know what you would call AUSA. Um, I'll just call them our federal partners. So um, I'll send you some additional information, Malcolm. And I think what it is just like, what are best practices? Because we know, well, hopefully FBI is letting you know when they're not going to, um, move forward with the case, or like, um, I guess we just need to know more about what that process looks like once your investigators start a case and it's referred to FBI. Then we need to understand that dynamic of when FBI and when AUSA gets involved. So maybe we could just do not a specific case, but just in general, like, here's a process, and that'll be helpful for us as we try to do more community education and work with the families. So I'll get you a little bit more information, Malcolm, and
Okay.
so yeah.
Just to our people are who I oversee as the criminal investigators, and there shouldn't be any of that lack of communication going on between the criminal investigators and the victims, the families. And that's what I really that's my pet peeve, because we have a service to provide, and that's part of it. That's part of our job descriptions, is keeping the family informed. And if we can't disclose any of the information, we got to be honest about it and be forthcoming and sitting down with them. And I sympathize with the family and the victims. And I'm a hard charger when it comes to that if there's a breakdown in communication, I want to fix it. I want to make sure that our guys are being more responsive, more respectful, and bring in, to help trying to bring closure to the family is what I'm looking at. And if there's a breakdown in communication, I apologize for that. But if it's coming from my department, then I will fix it. Just go ahead and send me that information and I'll look into it. And I got a meeting coming up with the FBI on the 10th. So I'll sit down on the New Mexico side. So I'll sit down with them and my criminal investigators.
Okay, appreciate it. We're not sure yet if there was a breakdown. I'm more curious in terms of how that happened, because if there's a lot of moving pieces, and I know Vanjie's right in the thick of it. So what we'll do is we could also look at maybe another case or a scenario, and what that communication flow chart looks like. I'm not sure if. Let me look. I know that we've been really encouraging public safety PIO to join the calls. Let me see. And a PIO is a public information officer. I don't see them on the call, but that is something that they can also assist. Is helping us understand that communication. Um, so that'll just continue to be a recommendation. But we appreciate your support, Xiaj, for being on the calls, and helping us and guiding, providing words of wisdom in terms of how we can enhance our internal support. I wanted to go to our relatives on the call. Does anybody right now have any words of encouragement for Vanjie, or any recommendations?
Hello, this is Tanya Grass. I just wanted to mention that we have weekly cases with the AUSA office. So I feel like every week we're up in Albuquerque for a lot of the hearings with families. And our communication with the CIs have been great, and FBI as well as the AUSA office. And so normally when cases come through, the CIs are really great in forwarding those cases over to the advocates if we don't already have it or law enforcement doesn't call us. Um, we're really great in helping them in a space of where they need to just feel safe, and then giving them that support. Some of those cases do take a while. We try our best to do our follow-ups, but as far as when it gets to the prosecution part, when the AUSA, they'll reach back out as well to let us know that they got the case, they're working with this family. We'll let them know that we are working with the family, and we'll kind of collaborate in that area. But those collaboration have been happening weekly with both FBI, AUSA office, and the criminal investigators. So I can definitely say that for the Shiprock and Crown Point office. So I just want to mention that.
Oh, my, uh,
Roddy, can I say something? This is Vanjie. Did we lose her?
Hey Benji, it looks like we did
Okay.
lose Delegate Karate. She's probably in a spotty zone, but go ahead, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. But I wanted to say that I was very fortunate. I feel very blessed to have had that open communication with during Zach's case. I know that other families don't get the same, and when I was voicing that, it was on behalf of the other families and what they go through. And so again, as I've stated before, my recommendation is, I know that we have the missing persons day, missing persons event, but I think that having more of those and going into different communities, that will help families, because many families honestly cannot travel out. They don't have the finances. Many of them are taking care of their grandchildren, their nieces and their nephews, of the children whose parents are not or no longer with us. And so that's a financial burden on these families. And whether or not they get finances on behalf of the children, that's a whole nother story. So if we can get out into those communities, I think that would help and open those doors so that these families can get answers and be able to speak to law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Benji. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we move on? Okay, so I do see some people in the chat. Let's see here. We have Milton Blue House. My deepest condolences, Miss Randall Shorty. My mom and I will keep you and your family in our prayers of healing and for justice. For investigative and legal support, is there a training or information session that provides the rationale, investigative, legal, or otherwise for a sensitivity on the disclosure of information? This may be helpful for our families to also understand why certain information is not shared. Yeah, I think that's a great question. Do we have anyone who might have an answer to that?
Tatiana,
Go ahead.
good morning. This is Andrea. I actually had similar requests in conversation with another family member on this exact topic. Same situation. Their case is moving forward. Like with this family member, there was a lot of challenges with communication, and they were trying to figure out why there wasn't a lot of communication, and it led to some, I guess, animosity and just kind of delay and disruption with the case because one side thought, the other party is mad at them. And then the other party thought, like, why aren't they giving me information? Until finally the two came together, and it was discovered then that what Mr. Milton Bluehouse mentioned was the disclosures. They finally went in detail regarding the disclosures, and afterward, the family member understood. And the family member mentioned, why wasn't that mentioned beforehand? It would have clarified and cleared up a lot, because then I had a much better understanding from my end about what you need from me, or about why something is delayed or taking so much time. So that is another request from families, that I think would be a good education piece as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. It looks like we do have Delegate Crowdy back on the line, so I'll hand this back over to you, Delegate. Okay, so she might still be in a spotty area. Um, let's see here.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Apologize. Thank you, Tati, for helping. Let's go with Andrea's question, Tati, and then I'll come back to what I was going to ask Tanya before I cut out.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Chief Silversmith or Malcolm, do you guys have an answer to that, or do you know anyone in your departments who can provide that information?
When it, this is Malcolm again, excuse me, I'm sorry about the delay there. When it comes to cases, each one is specifically different. It's a case by case scenario. And this is what I was talking about when it comes to, I can only speak for my department as far as disclosures are concerned. There's a lot of information that, is supposedly questionable when we give these when we're meeting with the family. But for myself personally, I try to give as much information as possible. So I don't understand why, some of these people, and I do talk to the supervisors to speak to their subordinates on releasing information, because this discussion we're having, it's been around for the longest time, and we had this lengthy discussion when we're doing our general orders, and that's where our guidance comes from. And that is overall the umbrella of under over, people's SOP, standing operating procedures, come from. And that goes into more detail when it comes to the departments. So when we're releasing information, we talk with the United States Attorney or the tribal attorneys and our prosecutors, and we ask them, what kind of information can we release? And it goes from there. But sitting down and not, law enforcement, that being investigations, criminal investigations, withholding certain information, they need to be more educated. And this is where experience comes in on what to release and explaining to the family in detail why we cannot release certain information, but not leaving them there asking and leaving with more questions than answers. And that's not how we want to do things. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we can, give as much information as we can that isn't detrimental to the case. And that's where a lot of it comes in. It's really sensitive stuff that we're talking about. And everybody can have their say so. And a lot of people, they get the misconception from these movies they watch and these, now it's the reality TVs. There's certain things that, we're bound by, and it's the secrecy of it's the evidential release of information that we're bound by, and we cannot release it. And we can explain that to the family in better detail when we meet with them one-on-one, or if they're wanting to sit there in groups. But a lot of this stuff really, it's really detrimental for the officers to know that when we go into this, we got to be really aware of the sensitivity of the case itself. And the family's looking for answers. They're upset. They're going through a traumatic experience. And our officers, this is where experience comes in again. They have to sit there and listen to them and let them release some of that anger. And that's where we come in and we sit there and we listen to that, and then we release what we can and we explain that in detail. That's where I think a lot of this stuff is it's happening. And according to just reading from Mr. Bluehouse's his comment, that's the first thing that came across my mind is why are the criminal investigators not releasing information that I know that can be released? And it comes back to, okay, now we got to sit here and go have another meeting and training. And that, like I said, I'm going to sit down with my supervisors and get to the bottom of this.
Thank you for that, Malcolm, for that response. We really do appreciate it. That kind of clears up a lot of our confusion. Milton, I do see your hand raised, and then after Milton, we'll go back to Delegate Crotty. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Milton. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, great. Oh, first of all, thank Mr. Leslie for that information. Yeah, I agree that there's a case-by-case consideration and the uniqueness of each case. I think that Mr. Leslie's also right that I think that there can also be a template generally stated that here's why we have to preserve the integrity of the investigation, perhaps in terms of witness integrity of witness candor, right? And maybe even presenting retaliation for families who are alleged to be related to the alleged perpetrator. And then perhaps even just maintaining a clean record for the investigation, which is important during the trial. And then also perhaps protecting privacy of family members, and also protecting privacy as well of investigators, knowing that there are some people out there who are pretty bad. And I think too, it's also about maintaining a focus on the investigation for law enforcement, and to avoid I don't think the term distraction is the appropriate word. It's too harsh, but I think it's about being distracted in a way that multiple issues, multiple items are suddenly presented um, in how and when and if information is released on the investigation that can, I think, derail or sidetrack the investigative process. And I think too, there's some elements of attorney-client privilege that might be present. I'm still trying to work through that one, but I think what I'm saying here is that those, as a general statement, an information sharing session for families may help, as Mr. Leslie mentioned earlier, and also our colleague also mentioned too from I'm trying to remember here. Andrea mentioned that families do feel that information is needed, and the approach and the way law enforcement may present information or not present information may also further fuel conflict between families, among families, or even with families and law enforcement. And so maybe something, just a general template in terms of why certain information is not shared. Again, back to the issue of the investigative integrity, protection of privacy, and maintaining a clean record. So that's what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Yes, we are recording this meeting, and so we'll have summaries of the questions that are being asked. And we want to make sure as a task force, and this is our core call, so this is where we do a lot of discussion and what needs to be completed. I am sharing on our screen while I'm reviewing our annual plan because we're preparing for our quarterly report with GAP. And so we're in the season of fall, which is the season of, enough. We're supposed to be bringing all of these recommendations to life. There's still areas that are critical that we need executives to move forward on. So I just provided a snapshot for everybody who's on the call, but I'll read it out loud for those who are calling in. So there is a federal law called Savannah's Act and the Not Invisible Act. And in those two pieces of federal legislation, a best practice or recommendation was for each tribal nation to develop a response community plan. And so it's called the tribal, maybe that's why I can't say it, Tribal Community Response Plan. Sorry about that. And so the section that we're waiting for to finalize is the law enforcement. But as I mentioned in meetings in the past, I'm going to move forward to legislate this provision because we've asked, I think when our last, well, not our last, but our in-person meeting at council last September, it was requested, and on record, because I look at the records, I make sure that practically every meeting I've been asking for an update from Navajo Nation Division of Public Safety, and we've been promised this portion to be updated. But for the task force, I think we're going to have to move forward in assisting. And so some of the areas that we'll need to come up with is language on what we recommend for Navajo Nation law enforcement. Here you'll see preliminary information provided to the family. That needs to be identified on Navajo who will be those entities that are the point of contact for the family members so that there's not confusion when the initial report happens. We want to know or make recommendations, what are the recommendations for Navajo Nation law enforcement when it comes to the preliminary investigation of a missing persons report. This is a space where those conversations can happen. In my experience, especially the last year, that's been hit or miss depending on who is assigned. Chief Silversmith, I don't know if you want to give us an update in terms of if you're able to see what's on the screen and how the Navajo Nation Police Department is moving forward with developing these key concepts. And it's my understanding that there's been a change in leadership for the missing persons unit. And if you could provide that information, because I haven't received an alert of a missing person since around Halloween time. And that's a concern, as it's a critical resource that's fully funded by the Navajo Nation on behalf of our people, but we rely on the police department to deploy out those techs, according to my record. Chief Silversmith?
Oh yeah, Shanantai, Honorable Karate, and those of you who are listening in related to the MMDR task force. We still have our missing persons unit intact. Jadi peso test anigi. I think the 5 million that was equally distributed among various entities related to this initiative for MMDR. Koto executive order and I think it's just a matter of implementation from the division director's office that we've been waiting for, but I think we're going to push forward in training a majority of our police officers that deal with missing persons cases on a 24-hour basis. It's not, we just don't get cases or reports on missing persons during the day. And actually developing an alert system. So right now, DEM has the ultimate control over the Everbridge system, which comprises of the Amber Alert system. I think they're renewing the contract as we're speaking. We still have some access to the system from the MPU, or missing persons unit perspective, to input information related to any and all missing persons cases. Any and every case is considered a missing person until a lot of cases, some of them are found within the hour, even before a shift ends. Sometimes we do get reports back from family that they been in contact with their loved ones, so they kind of want to get the individual out of the NCIC system. From the outside, or border towns, or metropolitan law enforcement agencies from Phoenix, Albuquerque, those close within proximity of the Navajo Nation. So I think peso with DEM, which Navajo law enforcement don't control the funds of what's allocated to DEM. The Everbridge system. I think they are lacking the administrative staff to actually renew some of these contracts. So to formulate the 164 process and also assist them with processing these documents. I think that's the only hand we have in the process, other than having access for our patrol detectives and also for our dispatch program, although to be able to enter those information on a 24-hour basis. So as far as preliminary information provided to the family, there's a lot of things. Navajo Division of Public Safety, as we all know, consists of 7 programs, one of it being law enforcement and criminal investigation that have a major role in missing person cases. Jadi aja nihye. We played the preliminary role, the investigative role, as far as our detectives doing the initial intake. I believe they consistently communicate with family members as the case progresses. But hadoshi oyo if there is some form of foul play or the cause of death, then it's reverted to criminal investigations. I think that's the most complex part. Is I agree with Director Malcolm Leslie related to once these cases get out of our hands, it's really hard to keep family members apprised, because then it becomes a federal investigation. The our federal partners as far as sharing of information. I don't know. I think it's been a long-standing attempt to try to find ways that we can establish better communication with family members through the victim advocates program from the federal partners and to the tribal, and also some of the contracted victim advocates program. I think it's been a hard initiative, but I guess they have their own rules that govern their law enforcement program at a federal level. And I do agree with Director Leslie that we all operate under the same general order policy for the Navajo Division of Public Safety, when we're bound to the same confidentiality case file information. So I think those are some of the things that we are going to move forward with as far as educating our officers with the current TRCP missing person guideline. As we're progressing along, if there's any changes that comes from either this legislation or if there are some amendments that need to be made, eventually we'll be sharing it with the MMDR task force, as well as our law enforcement administration over here with Division of Public Safety, on what needs to be amended or where we can improve. So we are gathering information. We are having a instructors summit here in a couple of days. The lesson plan for the missing person guidelines. Each and every general instructor that we have for Navajo law enforcement, we are going to begin classes at the district levels, and then also make it a part of our advanced officer training program, where our officers are required to maintain 40 hours of standard training. So we'll be inputting that into the training program to make sure we have everybody from the chief, deputy chief, to our command level personnel or our frontline personnel to be trained and well aware of the new guidelines that are being implemented. But we really need to start moving forward with the educational part for our frontline officers and getting familiar with the guidelines as well. So I know you mentioned a change in leadership. I think having a command level leader for a lot of our special operations programs, yayalkyo, and keeping our patrol detectives and the sergeants on task with their primary duties as investigating missing persons cases. Lieutenant to make sure he or she deals with the administrative aspect of keeping apprised of what's going on with the MMDR task force, and for us internally with the Office of the Chief of Police. That way they can 100% of their time they can be tasked with investigating missing persons cases instead of being sidetracked in attending some of these meetings. And I think that's where leadership meetings for Tuesday morning meetings. Although Thursday meetings, I think that's more of an open Q&A meeting type situation where we can actually have the lieutenant and our patrol detectives online, but keeping in mind if it's a federal case, I think Director Leslie will be available to intervene if we should be going down the path of providing information that is still pending with the federal partners. So either myself or Deputy Chief Leonard Williams will be attending the Tuesday's meetings from here on out. So once we get all of our police officers trained, issue them their certificates of completion, each and every police officer that we have on the road will be familiar with a lot of this information, including some of these preliminary information that's being provided up to the point of where it becomes a federal case. So I believe we also are purchasing another cadaver dog. This cadaver dog, the canine, is primarily going to be trained in searching for human remains. But instead of a civilian handler, we're actually going to have a certified police officer that is going to be the handler of this canine. And it costs a lot of money to maintain and purchase these animals. So that's where our missing persons unit and the program is headed towards. Eventually, we're also investing in much higher technology as far as drone. NASA the new higher technology that there is out there. I think some of them, they call it the flare technology, as far as the Nebetzis and then I think there are now heat and cold signatures technology with a lot of this drone technology. So we're advancing and improving our missing persons based on how not just the outside world, but in some of the things that we are dealing with. Oho out shikedos ne kwage petsado adahui ato kwage lesson learned no that kwage to how we can better service our people when it comes to missing persons. So that is going to be by my update to you, Shema Shinantai. So we will provide more updates as we progress. But Thursday meetings, I think that's where our patrol detectives will be available for any questions related to case updates.
Okay. Okay, appreciate that, Shiaj. I just want to let you know too, in terms of, so there was we're under a subcommittee, we're under the Navigiete subcommittee, this task force, and there's not a virtual option for this subcommittee. And so we actually do need to meet quorum in person. And so I'll keep you updated on those Thursday calls because they can no longer be like 100 or 90% virtual. We actually need in-person task force members. And so maybe that's something you can host at with your team there, or I was going to ask the Office of the Prosecutor that we could meet somewhere where there's a collective energy that so people can start attending and participating. Maybe this is where Ms. Azua Shade, thank you for joining the call. There's a few or major areas that we continue to need your support and to complete some of the tasks. And this would be one of those areas, is how do we get the executive programs to participate in the task force? So currently and consistently, we have Navajo Nation criminal investigators and Navajo Nation Police Department on the call. We now have the Department of Health, who are not officially on the task force, but have consistently been on the call. We'll need your help with the other executive programs, including yourself, in this vital role that you have at the Office of the President to help assist the task force. So could you give us an update in terms of the work? You know, do you have any updates for the tasks that have been that the task force has asked you in your position as OPVP MIP coordinator to complete? Could you just give us an update so we're all on the same page? Thank you. So I'm not hearing anything on my end. Yolanda, are you able to unmute? Okay, staff, can we make sure that Mrs. Zhu is not double muted?
She commented in the chat box.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, so then let's put this in writing. I'm going to be sending, I sent a draft memo to President's office on Wednesday of the areas that need executive branch input to complete certain sections of our task force recommendations. So I hope you got a copy. If not, I'll forward that. I think we're finalizing some editing on our end. What I did want to ask Chief Silversmith, Shiaj, if you could help us with who in your team collects the data, because we would like to meet with them for the database team as we develop this database and understand what's being captured, because you use Cody, just kind of have a better understanding of what's being captured and some more of those technical questions. Dr. Gonzalez is with NTU as a consultant helping us. Dr. Gonzalez, did you maybe help me? What requests do we need from Navajo Nation Police Department?
Thank you, Delegate Crotty. I think we landed with the need to confer with them regarding the availability of data that they've made available on a person-to-person basis or on an internal tribal basis, whether or not we can use any of that information as part of the data collection and reporting options in the database project. So there's Sergeant Begay had included data in a summary spreadsheet regarding the current status of individuals. We just want to work through some of the details of whether that data is available, whether or not it is restricted in any, whether it's available for public, whether it's restricted in any way, and then the conditions of which we can restrict that we can restrict access to the data to comply with either federal, tribal, or state limitations. So it's a little more longer conversation, but nonetheless, it's important.
Okay, Chief Silversmith, who would you recommend, or how could you help us? We could have that discussion here at a Tuesday call on the database. We usually meet Wednesdays at 2 o'clock because it does get a little technical, and that's why we're asking to also invite your data team. Feedback?
Yeah, Shanant, I think I can defer this to Director Leslie, but we have been meeting internally as far as trying to the requests from the outside entities, the outside agency related to data sharing. Though, where are we going to establish our primary data resource collection? And I believe we did come up with a plan as far as Division of Family Services, their epicenter, to maintain the storage of data collection and dissemination through their program. But I will divert some time to Director Malcolm Leslie related to you see the MMDR or the missing person guidelines. The TRCP was really developed under the Department of Criminal Investigation. So where we are going in the direction of having the Department of Criminal Investigations head the entire TCRP and missing person guideline. You see, naltsos katelia bijit bepais sohiben nache nke o kodo iyadon de lishigi be bekat nature. So you see, diverting a lot of our data collection over to that data collection program. That way, it'll be better access from you and your task force. Nantai kaige hajo no bendahita. So I'll give some time to Director Leslie to talk a little more about the plan for that.
Malcolm?
Or we can discuss it Wednesday because it is going to be a little technical on how it's going to go.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that'll be perfect. And I just want to reiterate that we're working with the DNET Action Plan data. So we're all working synergetically with epidemiology. So it's good to hear that these conversations are happening. Malcolm, did you want to say something? Okay, I thought he wanted to mention something, but oh, was that you, Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I thought that was Malcolm.
That's quite, thank you. If there's any, if there's a document that details the guidelines and missing person guidelines, or if there's any specific data exchange detail that the police, Navajo Nation Police has prepared in collaboration with the epicenter, that would be extremely helpful prior to our meeting so we can prepare for the conversation. So, and if again, if Director Leslie is the contact, that's great. Now, who is the contact at the epicenter that the Navajo Nation's been working with the police to coordinate this data sharing and data exchange collaboration?
I think by Wednesday we'll have a definite name. Maybe even invite them to the Tuesday meetings as far as who's going to be the primary point of contact. But this is, like I stated, that this is a primary initiative by the Department of Criminal Investigation. So a lot of inquiries would more be shifted to Director Leslie within the coming months as far as the future of the missing person guidelines and also the MMDR, the task force initiative related to missing persons. So I think we'll get the people together and we'll make sure they're there for the Wednesday meeting to provide a better update as to who all is going to be the key players, the key stakeholders, and the data sharing initiative. All information collected by all law enforcement programs within Navajo Nation, our numbers will be a little more accurate. Our statistics will be a little more accurate. Case numbers to input that with the epicenter. That way, it's not inconsistent each and every time we present our numbers during different meetings or that's the goal of Division of Public Safety, is to ensure that we provide the most accurate statistics available to the coalitions and also to MMDR task force.
Thank you, Chief Silversmith.
Okay, appreciate it. Is there any follow-up? Sorry about the background noise. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. So we have the database. Is there any other questions from those who are on the line?
Yeah, Ishnella, this is Laurel. I would just like a new updated list for who the officers, your command chart for the MPU units, so we have the best and up-to-date information to share with clients that we're working with, please and thank you.
We will get that email to you.
Hagoshi, thank you. And then also, just a suggestion for when you are starting to have the trainings with regarding your procedures with how you're going to handle cases. I kindly ask that you invite the task force, or at the very least advocates who are working with these families, so in attempts to get everyone on the same page and responding accordingly. That way there's no disagreements or anything, any pieces left behind, and we're all on the same page. I think that would get us a little further ahead of the game.
Okay, but our primary focus is getting our law enforcement officers first trained before we move forward with incorporating any other entities. We will do public presentations thereafter.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So I'm going to be just blunt that this is the report that we've been provided by the police department for over a year. And so I would say, as a delegate in my capacity, I would need a timeline because when we were in budget session and I spoke to Director Henderson, and so that was back in July, August, I was promised this information, this plan, like in 2 weeks. So that should have been mid-August. So there has to be some accountability from public safety to make this happen. So I understand that you want to do the training first, but our request is give us that information that will be based off of the training, and that will help us navigate your system, because right now it keeps changing. So it's frustrating on my end, because at least there should be like constant communication, and that's why I'm asking Ms. Azua, understanding she's sick today, but we should be getting this constant information out of the office of president and vice president so that we're all aware, so that we could support our families and the survivors. You know, internally for Navajo Nation, we desperately need your help to move forward on these initiatives. You did have your team there at the council last September, so it's been 14 months. And I understand if like internal training needs to take place, but we need the framework. What are the guidelines that you are going to train your officers on? And if we could get these questions answered, understanding that you're collaborating with CI, and I'm assuming CI, how they want to move forward when it comes to missing persons, that's fine. That's like mid-long term. But right now the questions we're asking is like today. We need to know what that looks like on your end. We have a little visual that we could share with you. I think Rosita Billy may have created, and I still don't see your PIO on the line. So I think there's ways in terms of like leadership, like in positions we're at, but also staff to provide that information out to the public. At the very least, by this, we should all be on the same page on what happens when there's a missing relative that's reported. Even if they're found 2 minutes later, the next day, a long-term case, that's the type of information that we've been requesting. And so I hope that you could develop a timeline and we can move forward and support, the vision moving forward. But when things keep changing, that just creates instability for internally how Navajo Nation is going to respond when there's a missing person. So could you give us a timeline or give me a date when you're going to have that timeline available? Because I'd like to go back to that and say, okay, 6 weeks ago, we agreed to have this completed. Where are we at now? Because we can't keep not providing this information to the community. So let me know what your timeline is.
I believe we have to present our lesson plan to our general instructors or our law enforcement training center. But we're really hoping to get it also blessed by our Arizona post training partners to make this an accredited training for those that have state peace officer certification to maintain that. So we should have a draft that we can, a finalized draft that we can present to you. You probably can share that draft lesson plan within, I would say before December 31st, you'll receive a draft lesson plan on what our officers will be undergoing as far as the training plan. An 8-hour training plan or potentially a 16-hour training plan. We want to make sure we have our officers well aware of what's contained in the guidelines, what their duties and responsibilities are. I know we've emailed our PIO, from a civilian perspective. We do have one sergeant that is very familiar and well trained in PIO work. I believe having a PIO from a certified police officer perspective can probably better answer questions related to some of the investigative inquiries or again, any to have a better perspective on like your question related to preliminary information being provided to families or what's being restricted from sharing of information. I think having that heard during if we're not available for these meetings, at least you're getting your information or information is being disseminated from an actual law enforcement officer that completely better understands the investigative process on how things should move forward. I think we'll have him online for the Thursday meeting so he can introduce himself to you all. So he'll be the law enforcement PIO that's going to start attending these meetings on Thursdays, or better yet, probably both days. We listen to you all. Some of the frustrations here internally the nail the participation, the lack thereof, we have to find alternative ways to ensure that the people are heard, the information disseminated as we progress along. So, as we progress, we'll collaborate and provide more information as we go along. So our goal is to begin training sessions within the 26 calendar year, January, maybe the first or second week, we're going to initiate our training curriculum.
Okay, appreciate it. I know that our partner at Arizona State Attorney's Office helps Ms. Hood. So could you help us in terms of any guidance when it comes to these guidelines through a law enforcement perspective? You have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to mention, I need to get Chief Silversmith's email. We work with Easy Post and we have a good relationship with them. So when we try to get certifications for our post, we usually, only thing that they require from our team is just a certification and how many hours that they spent. And then if this is in Arizona, so if they were to get audit, if Navajo Nation Police Department were to get audit, that they would just have the certifications to show them. And that's how they get certified in regards to hours for AZ Post. But I can introduce you to Roger Geyser. I think he's been up there, and I know that in the past, you guys asked for his help. But as long as I'm CC on it, it will happen. I actually had a conversation with him yesterday, but we can get those conversations with our law enforcement on cold cases, as well as other trainings that we can provide. And the Attorney General, Chris Mays, wants us to be in tribal nations, so you guys wouldn't have to drive to Phoenix. We would provide the training in your community, as well as I can also introduce you to the training director for AZ Post in regards to get your guys' certification process and your guidelines and your information to them.
So the problem.
Okay, appreciate that.
So for Navajo law enforcement, I believe there's my predecessors before me got away from Arizona post certification training, and then we moved on with our Navajo Post Peace Officer Standards and Training. So we do run our police academy based on the Indian Police Academy training curriculum from BIA. I know since I took over office, we have been making that effort to try to revert back to reincorporating our Arizona Post or state certification post curriculum. Whether it's Arizona or New Mexico, it's either way, we are making that initiative to try to get our training center. I know we still do lack some facilities that require for our academy to be certified by Arizona Post to be a bona fide Arizona Post training academy. It's still a work in progress for us as far as getting our current facility inspected and recognized as and approved and accredited by Arizona Post to start meeting the standards of our training center. So that's the purpose of why it's kind of hard to find actual Arizona certified peace officers on board with us. It's mostly the older officers that still maintain this Arizona state certification that we have to kind of seek and find to become our general instructors and to be recognized. And I think that was one of the reasons why we did not send our NPU staff to the most recent training, was because they were disapproved for the training because they did not have Arizona Post certification. So I think that's the biggest trouble we're running into now is the need for state accreditation so we can participate in a lot of and still get training from Arizona Post like we used to. There is a reach out from Snowflake Satellite Training Academy under Arizona Post. They do have some slots available, so we're also considering sending our current recruits to some of these satellite trainings so we can start re-engaging in post certification for our Navajo law enforcement officers. So that's another update as far as since we're on this topic of state certifications, though trying to get our lesson plan recognized by the Arizona State Board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, did you have a follow-up?
Sorry. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Our team's certified and we've done trainings in tribal communities. And from my understanding, we didn't need a training facility approved by AZ Post. We just had to have our trainers and then just send the curriculum to them. But I'll check into it. I mean, like, I've just coordinated it, and our team, who are training certified, was able to do it. But well, I'll figure out something, and I'll contact and see what's the best plan moving forward on our team if you guys want our help with that process.
Yeah, I think it would just be good to know what is the current process and the current policies, just so that, you know, we could have that for our records and in these conversations to encourage, you know, moving forward. So thank you for that. So Laurel Shamila, it's 9:53, so you have the floor with your question.
Oh, yeah, just real quick, I wanted to extend the task force's diverse expertise in offering support in whatever way we can. We definitely have a diverse group of individuals here that has demonstrated some great work in project development and can help you break down these large tasks if needed as well. So just, we're not here to burden you all with all of this. We definitely want to help too. So let us know if we can do a work plan or how we can best help you all. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I might be having some technical issues. Okay, sorry about that. If anybody's talking, I'm not able to hear you. But can you hear me?
We can hear you. You're good to go, Chanela. We can hear you.
Okay, appreciate it. So the last thing I wanted to make sure that we're all aware, if you could share that back on the screen when Chief Silversmith talks about an executive order. There was an executive order signed of May 2nd of 2025. I've brought up this executive order a few times. The task force collectively was not a part of developing this plan, but I would need Ms. Azua to give us an update next week to the task force on how these different programs are coming together to implement, because it does look, and it says, because that's what I'm saying, what we hear from executive programs is there's a lot of conflicts. And one example is, according to President Nygren, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing Person Unit is responsible for conducting training and guidance for Navajo Nation law enforcement. If that's no longer an option, then we need updated information from executive on how families are going to be supported. So it does say, Navajo Police Department, Dispatch Section, Criminal Investigation Department. It includes the Department of Health, so Cody's on the line. Not sure if there's still a family harmony program under Department of Health, but Cody, if you could get us that information. The Division for Children and Family Services, we haven't heard from any of their programs in a while when it comes to developing this executive or implementing this executive order. And here's where I keep going to. It's the Attorney General's office. And so this is where it's saying the Attorney General shall be responsible for ensuring compliance with this order. And since this order was signed, there has been really no movement from the Attorney General's office to ensuring compliance with this order. So it is a concerning that this is, signed. It's a public document, but yet there's no accountability that these initiatives are being implemented. And it does also conflict with the tribal community response plan that was first enacted in 2022. And so our goal is to update that plan. Executive, you can have, go and have this executive order, and but it is very conflicting on the work that we've heard from families. It conflicts some of the response recommendations from advocates. And as Navajo Nation, we need to do better to unify our internal process to provide justice to our people. So having an executive order out there, it's not just about a signature. There has to be implementation. Like, we are in the cycle of fall. This is enough. This is our life season. We should be seeing the implementation of such plans. Our people demand it. So I'm going to end by that comment. We're hoping to talk more about the Title 17 criminal code changes. We'll talk about that next week. But I did want to, as an announcement, the Missing and Murdered Diné Relatives Task Force, we're going to provide a report to the Law and Order Committee. They're the oversight for a lot of the divisions when it comes to our criminal justice system. And so collectively send any information, or what we plan to do is build up a presentation. So in your different groups that you're working on, we'll be developing presentations to provide to the Law and Order Committee so that they could continue to help and support. One area that they brought up yesterday was the Navajo Nation Privacy Act. And so collectively we'll work together to make sure if, there's an individual, how we can continue to provide education to the community, especially if there's an individual who's been wanted, or someone who has caused harm in the community. These are just things that we're looking at, what capability should we be requesting as a task force that either criminal investigators or Navajo Nation Police Department provide to the community? I'm going to end with that, but Rachel, did you have any final comments before we end?
No, I'll just try to work. Oh, hi. I'll try to work with our team and let them know. I'm gonna go into executive meeting and tell them the update from this meeting.
Okay, appreciate that. And if you could just draft out, like give us just a rough outline of what you can do and what you could provide, we'll add it to our recommendations for our report to Law and Order Committee. Thank you.
And then also I can invite AZ Post training individual, but I'll have to ask my team if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Or yeah, that would definitely be beneficial. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys. Hagwana.